Hello everyone, Anders Mind the Shift. In the latest episode with Etzel Cardenia, professor of psychology, we talked about the knowledge we have about consciousness and where consciousness is located, which is not in the brain, and that it's kind of belongs to a non-physical realm. And then I asked him the question about ancient knowledge about these things. What did the shaman mystics traditions get right? You know, the ancient shaman mystic traditions that are at the core, at the root of even Christianity and Judaism, but have been harshly rejected by the mandated religion. And what did they get right, and what did science get wrong, or what went wrong when science came onto the stage in the 1500s, 1600s? And he answered that, well, I might disappoint you a bit, but I disagree, he said, because I don't think that everything was just hunky-dory thousands of years ago, and then all of a sudden when science came along, it all went down the drain. Because, as he said, I mean, shamanism or no shaman, or not, science or not, human beings have always done pretty ghastly things, but there have always also been very friendly, loving, caring people who have been the ones that have made it possible for us to live on without exterminating our own species or other species completely, at least. So I just wanted to say that I think he misinterpreted my question a little bit, or he answered something that I didn't really ask about, and my question wasn't clear enough either. So what I meant was that, I mean, I too do not think that everything was hunky-dory before and that everything's gotten worse. On the contrary, I mean, I think this world that we're living in now is the best world ever. Humanity has never lived in a better world than we do now. But still, there is something about this knowledge about the inner core of what is a human being that I think the shaman mystic traditions of very, very ancient times knew about, and that went lost at some point, or maybe successively, probably. And I mean, it's not the fault of science that this has got lost. It's the fault of, just as much the fault of the church or of any other parts of the powers that be, who have seen to it that this knowledge, the knowledge about our inner essence, the nature of a human being at the core, that this knowledge has been shoved aside, rejected, ridiculed, and we've been told, conditioned, that this is not the reality. The reality is that we are just here in our physical bodies and then we die, and the church has said that, oh, if we do some good things, we might be able to get to heaven afterwards, but otherwise no. So this is a segue over to the next episode. Actually, next week I'm going to be featuring Betty Kovacs, who has written a fascinating book, which I'm reading right now, and where Betty Kovacs thoroughly, meticulously goes through all these ancient traditions and the knowledge, shaman mystic knowledge about who we truly are. I mean, from, you know, the Buddha, Jesus, and all these enlightened beings that really were talking about these things, but it has been misinterpreted and construed in a wrong way, what they actually said. But what they said was, what they've always been saying is that we all have this in us, and two things: we don't really die when our physical body dies, and we create our own lives. The consciousness, our soul, if you will, is so much more creative than we realize. So we don't die, and we create our own lives. And this knowledge has been rejected from the powers that be. And maybe we are now in a time where this knowledge is possible to reach out to a larger number of people, which would mean that we would face some kind of awakening, collective awakening on Earth. And many people are talking about that. I mean, I'm not more sure about that than anybody else, but that feels kind of interesting that this would happen now. And the reasons behind that would be perhaps that we are integrating for the first time. The whole of humanity is integrating for the first time in recorded history, and and that we have science, and we can now talk about these things, talk about the soul, talk about consciousness in a scientific way, which resonates with modern people. So doesn't have to be considered woo-woo anymore. This is going to be super interesting, so I really look forward to talking to Betty Kovacs next week about these things. Now, enjoy your week. Bye for now.